Hello and good evening. Welcome to the Reverie Pen Emporium, home of the finest pens in the world with unparalleled functionality, peerless design, and impeccable styling. Have you had the pleasure of shopping with us before? No? Well, we will certainly have to change that as quickly as possible. Now, won't we? Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. We will have to change that as quickly as possible. Absolutely. Now, as I alluded to previously, we have the largest and finest selection of pens and writing instruments which you have ever laid eyes on. In fact, the largest and finest selection in all of the world. Yes, absolutely, all of the world. But compared to our peers, we are not just the most diverse in our selections. We do not just have the finest pens, the most courteous staff, and the most tailored experiences. No, 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 no. We have all of that, of course. All of that, but so much more, in fact. We are very, very special. A very, very special shop indeed. And because we are so very, very special, because we are so very, very special, we have a few very special rules. First and foremost, this is the dialogue box. It will allow you to communicate seamlessly and so effortlessly with our staff, and vice versa, of course, and vice versa, of course, absolutely. But those particular special rules do not stop there. They do not stop there. They don't stop there. For this is the items box. The items box will contain all of the key items which you will need throughout your shopping experience with us here today. Not only that, of course, but it will also contain images of all of the pens which I will be describing to you throughout your shopping experience with us here at Reverie Pen Emporium tonight. Yes, so even if I am describing a pen to you or demonstrating its functionality, for example, you will always have a clear and unimpeded view of the pen in all of its glory. Yes, for of course your shopping convenience. Yes. Is this all to your liking? Wonderful. I am so very, very glad to hear that. So very, very glad to hear that. Indeed. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, you and I have had just a little bit of time to become acquainted with one another, but I've been telling you an awful lot about this shop and the experience that I promise you will have. But I have neglected, unfortunately, to inquire as to too many details about yourself. This simply will not do. No. It simply will not do. And I would be a poor professional salesperson indeed if I allowed this pattern to persist. if I allowed this pattern to persist, yes. So now, in order to fully tailor your experience with us here today, I must inquire of you, how do you intend to utilize this pen, yes? For example, do you intend to be using it for, everyday notes, journaling, letter writing, for example? Or do you intend to use it more in a professional capacity, perhaps to impress your peers? Yes, do you want a very fancy-looking pen to impress your peers? Which of these one, two options, everyday use or professional? I see. Professional. Wonderful. And a little birdie told me, yes, if you do not mind my saying so, a little birdie indicated to me that this might be because you received a rather important promotion. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? Wonderful. Congratulations. Congratulations indeed. Yes. This is, of course, a very important step in your professional career, a very important step indeed. And I am oh so pleased, I am oh so pleased that you chose to make our humble little shop part of your experience in the newly minted professional world. Absolutely, absolutely, I'm oh so pleased about this. And now that I know that you'll be using this pen a bit more of a professional capacity, yes, a bit more of a professional capacity, I can tailor our offerings to you much more carefully, yes. You see, we have such a wide array and selection of pens, the largest in the world, across the most diverse types of mechanics, ink types, pigmentation, etc., that often we need a few details in order to truly present to you pens which will be of the most use and the most to your liking, to your own personal stylings and preferences. Yes, absolutely. You understand, don't you? Yes, I knew you would. Now, of course, just knowing that you are going to be utilizing this pen in a professional capacity, it's only half of the equation after all. Only half of the equation after all. You see, yes, you see, the other half, preference, professional capacity, is context. But then your own personal preference must come into play. So, what type of mechanics, ink type, what type of pen do you prefer? Yes. Are you a ballpoint person, a rollerball person? Do you prefer fountain pens, etc., etc.? Or perhaps are you a little bit of a newcomer to the art of the fine writing instrument, such as the ones that we offer here at the shop? Are you a bit of a newcomer to this perhaps upper echelon of writing instrument? Yes. And do you perhaps need a little bit more help when it comes to, just those finer details and a little bit more context? A little bit more context, yes, about your choices. Do you need a little bit of extra context, or can you make a selection without? I see. Wonderful. Well, as a bit of a newcomer to the world of the sophisticated pen or writing instrument, it would be my pleasure as a professional salesperson of the like to be able to provide to you that little bit of additional context. So, if you would permit me, I would like to take you through, just a little bit of a brief history of the pen, a bit of a brief history of the pen, and a little bit of additional context as to ink types and pigmentation, coloring, all sorts of different mechanisms, etc., etc., in order to ensure that we are selecting for you the most appropriate pen. After all, pens which may sound rather appealing at first may not be practical in implementation, and vice versa. Pens which may be a little bit less appealing at first blush may be extraordinarily smooth to write with and exceedingly well suited to the role which you are purchasing for this evening. Yes. So I always like to provide our customers, I should say, with that little bit of additional context, yes, so that you can make the right choice and so that you have all the information that you need to make that choice. Yes, after all, stumbling blindly into a choice may lead to a less than satisfactory selection, which is something that I, as a professional salesperson, would like to avoid at all costs. Absolutely. I want you to be not just satisfied, but exceedingly satisfied with your selection here this evening. Wonderful. Now, if you will bear with me for just a brief moment, I would like to very briefly educate you about the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 types of pens, if, of course, you do not mind. Wonderful. I know that you will not regret this. I am very, very confident, in fact, that you will not regret this one bit. You will be oh so pleased with yourself by the end, having made the perfect selection that even this bit of an inconvenience, this little bit of a distraction or tangent which we are about to embark upon, will be very well worth it, I should say, yes. Wonderful, but, of course, before we embark upon that journey, there are 1, 2 very quick matters which must be attended to. Very quick matters. The first, of course, of which is your coat, yes. You see, it is a bit of a rather chilly evening out there, isn't it? Yes. And I dare say I even witnessed a few errant flakes here and there, a few errant flakes here and there, drifting down here and there, before you came to visit us this fine evening. But it is always so very toasty warm inside of this shop that a coat is, in my personal opinion, wholly unnecessary. Thus, in order to prevent any unwanted overheating, if you would be so kind as to allow me to take your coat for you. Yes, please, yes. And do not worry, I promise it will be very well taken care of and stowed safely. May I please take your coat? Wonderful. Thank you so much. As I said, it will be stowed very, very safely and returned to you at the end of our evening. Yes. Wonderful. Now that was one matter. One matter, but one of two. One of two matters which I would like to attend to, the second of which is a drink. It is, after all, customary for people of commerce like ourselves to exchange and share a drink, yes, before engaging in the business of the evening. And I would like to indulge ourselves in this tradition, if for no other reason than to help you warm up just a little bit from that oh so chilly air outside, yes. Help warm you up inside and help you relax, yes. After all, shopping for a pen can be a little bit stressful. Shopping for anything can be a little bit stressful, and we want to do all that we can to ensure that this is an oh so very relaxing experience for you. Absolutely, absolutely. Now, this evening, I have one, two possible selections for you. Yes. 1, 2 possible selections. The first of which is an 18-year aged whiskey Scotch malt. Yes. A delicious whiskey Scotch malt. Yes. Its nose is a very, very fragrant and somewhat festive. Yes, somewhat festive one. It has a fruit and nutmeg aroma, yes, with a raisin and vanilla palate. A raisin and vanilla palate, yes. And a honey and ginger finish, yes. It is extraordinarily smooth, the perfect honey amber color, yes. And I think just the thing to help you warm up, yes, as it were, from that chilly air outside. But that is just one of two options. The second option is a beautiful blended cognac brandy. The cognac is a little bit more subtle in its nose than the whiskey. It has a bit of a hazelnut and an orange palate and a ginger finish, yes. Again, delectably smooth. It's a little bit more festive than the whiskey, perhaps. A little bit more festive in its flavorings and its finish. But it is very, very delicious, and I've had the pleasure of sampling it on a few different occasions, and not once in my lifetime have I ever been disappointed by it. Not once in my lifetime. Each and every time it has been beautiful, delectable, superb, yes. So, which of these 1, 2 options do you prefer? The whiskey or the brandy? Wonderful. A fine choice, if you do not mind my saying, yes. A wonderfully fine choice. If you would permit me just one moment to prepare your drink, please. Just one moment. And here you are. Thank you ever so much for your patience. Now that we have dealt with not just the technical matters, not just the technical matters of the evening, but also those matters which are more for your comfort, yes, and pleasant experience here this evening. Let us begin with a little bit of the true business. Yes, let us begin with our explanation and exploration, I should say, of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 types of pens. Yes. Now, you may be wondering, what are the 5 types of pens? 5 types of pens are as such: fountain, ballpoint, rollerball, yes, gel, and felt tip or marker pen, yes. Of those 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 types of pens, of those 5 types of pens, fountain pens are, of course, the oldest, having been invented in the 1820s. Rollerball and ballpoint pens are the next oldest, having been invented in the 1880s. Yes. Next came the marker pens, invented in the 1940s, and finally the gel pens, invented in the 1980s. Yes. Now you may be thinking to yourself, now wait just a moment. Ballpoint and rollerball pens came at the same time. Well, worry not, my friend. I haven't made a mistake or misspoken. You see, from a mechanical standpoint, ballpoint and rollerball pens are practically one and the same. One and the same. One and the same. The difference, you see, the difference lies in what type of ink they utilize. Yes, what type of ink they utilize, which of course serves as an excellent transition into our next topic of conversation, which is, naturally, ink types. Now, for the purposes of this, rather brief explanation, you must understand a few generalizations will be made here and there, a few generalizations. So just keep in mind that basically, with every rule or generalization which I present to you, there are, of course, a few exceptions. There are, of course, a few exceptions. But do not let that distract you from perhaps the more general truth which will be presented, yes. And without further ado, then, let us begin our discussion of the ink types. Yes, absolutely. Now, ink is, of course, a liquid, yes, and there are 2 primary types of liquids which are employed as vehicles, yes, for the inks. The first of which is water, yes, plain old water. Second is oil or alcohol, and their properties are so similar that we consider them one in the same, yes, one in the same. Water, of course, writes very, very smoothly. Water-based inks write very, very smoothly, yes, very, very smoothly, but are a little bit prone to smudging, yes, a little bit prone to smudging, and tend not to be very waterproof or water-resistant, though a few manufacturers claim to have invented more water-resistant or waterproof inks that are water-based with these properties, yes. Oil-based inks, on the other hand, tend to be very waterproof, still just about as smooth, very waterproof, and resistant to fading, smudging, etc. Much more permanent, but they tend to have a little bit of an odor associated with them. Certain types, at least, happen to have a little bit of an odor associated with them that comes from the alcohol or the oil base. And so, for certain engagements, namely office-based activities, they're deemed a little bit less desirable, yes. a little bit less desirable. Yes, absolutely. Now, of course, the liquid is not just the only component, of the ink. The second and equally as important other component is the colorant. There are two types of colorants, which are most commonly utilized in almost all types of modern-day pen inks. The first is dye-based colorants. Now, dye-based colorants dissolve completely. They dissolve completely in the vehicle of the ink and are able to produce many different hues and very smooth writing without any sort of compromising of the mechanisms of the pens. Yes, very, very smooth, but a little bit prone to fading. Dye-based inks are also a rather bit more vibrant than their pigment-based counterparts. Yes, their pigment-based counterparts, which of course brings us to our discussion of pigment-based colorants. Pigments are little flecks of material which are utilized to color the ink. They do not dissolve completely, and as such, often you will have to clean your pen quite rigorously and quite often in order to prevent any unwanted buildup and compromising of the internal mechanisms. However, pigment-based inks are also significantly more saturated, yes, more saturated, a little bit more bold, yes, and they tend to be more permanent, yes, than their dye-based counterparts. So there you have dye-based, pigment-based colorants, and water and oil or alcohol-based liquid vehicles. But of course, our discussion of these colorants and liquid types does you a little good. It does you a little good. It does little good, I say. Without the additional context of what pens utilize which inks. Thus, allow me to just very briefly explain to you which pens most commonly utilize which inks. Ballpoint pens utilize an oil-based ink with a dye-based colorant, while their rollerball counterparts utilize a water-based ink with usually a dye-based colorant, though, of course, exceptions do exist. Ballpoint pens also tend to require a little bit of additional downward force, which can lead to a bit of wrist tension or strain, but they also have a little bit less smudging than rollerball pens. Also, an additional piece of information: despite being based with oil-based ink, ballpoint pens do not usually have the same odor associated that some of the oil-based marker pens do, yes. More appropriate for an office or professional setting, such as the one which you will be engaging yourself in. Yes. Wonderful. Felt tip or marker pens tend to use water-based ink, though those employed for more artistic capacity do tend to use alcohol-based ink. They tend to use dye-based colorants, as pigments don't usually pass through the felt head, brush head of the marker as easily as dye. Yes, they tend not to be employed too much in a professional capacity, at least the larger ones and the ones for artistic endeavors, but They serve very, very well for making labels or anything that requires larger writing. And the smaller ones serve quite well for signatures, yes. For signatures, they make excellent signature pens. Gel pens, as I previously alluded to, are the most recent advent of pen technology, yes. And their ink is quite unique, as it is solid at rest, but becomes a liquid when pressed against the ball of the pen tip, yes. They tend to have water-based inks, yes, with a pigment-based colorant, which leads to extraordinarily smooth writing, and vibrant, bold, saturated lines, yes. However, a bit of a tendency to smudge. Up until recently, gel pens were more considered to be for youthful, more playful writing, not necessarily appropriate in a professional capacity, though nowadays, and more recently, more high-quality gel pens have been produced with such incredible mechanics and wonderful implementation that they often perform just as well as the more professional ballpoint or rollerball, and perhaps even exceed them in a few capacities, especially when it comes to the smoothness of writing, yes. Finally, fountain pen inks tend to be water-based, though there are a variety of pigment, dye, and other various forms of colorants which are available. For our purposes this evening, I will be showing you dye-based fountain pen inks, okay? Now, fountain pens are, of course, one of the oldest and most prestigious types of writing instruments available. They can be ornate and very, very expensive, wonderfully suited for those formal invitations or for letter writing. Yes, absolutely, though perhaps a little bit too ostentatious. For just everyday use, you must understand. Now, there are relatively few manufacturers in comparison to rollerball or ballpoint, for example, relatively few manufacturers of fountain pens who are still performing their craft, meaning that to get a very high quality and a very highly regarded fountain pen, it can come at a rather high cost indeed. Though, of course, there are perhaps more budget-friendly, yes, alternatives which are also available. And that, my friend, concludes our discussion, yes, of all of the various pen types, their inks and colorants, where they might be utilized best for, etc., etc. I hope that this has provided you just that little bit more context, which can help assist you in making your perhaps preference-based selections. We know your use, but for your preference, yes, I hope that this little mini lecture, a bit of education, as it were, will help you in your selection. Now, as I was describing everything to you, and I do apologize that it did take just a little bit longer than I'd originally anticipated, just a little bit longer, but I do appreciate your ever so gracious patience, yes. Did any of the various pens which I described to you pique your interest, stand out to you? Did anything catch your eye? Or would you perhaps like me to show you some more popular offerings of each and every type? Yes, of each and every type, to assist you, in perhaps narrowing your selections or just making a selection outright. which of these two options do they think pique your interest? Or would you just like to see everything? Which would you prefer? I see. Wonderful. In that case, I will take you on a bit of a tour, yes, on a bit of a tour of our most popular offering. It's the most popular pens, which are, evergreen. People, no matter the year, no matter the style, no matter the season, come to us and request these pens, and they're always satisfied. They are of reasonable price, exceptional style and fashion, and of very extraordinary reliability. Yes, extraordinarily reliable. They all, each and every one of them are, and I would wholeheartedly endorse a selection of any one of these 5 of our most popular offerings. Now, of course, you don't have to choose one of the 5. You can just use it as a bit of a narrowing of your selection, or if you find one that just jumps out at you, that is the pen that you must have, then by all means. Now, with your permission, I would like to begin our tour, bit of a tour I should say, of our various most popular pen offerings. Wonderful. Let us first begin then with the classic ballpoint pen, the Parker Jotter. The Parker Jotter, yes, is a very reasonably priced and cost-effective ballpoint pen option with ultra luxe features. You'll notice, of course, the signature Parker arrow, which has been embossed upon the pocket clip. It's a rather timeless and classic design feature, which again just hints at how elegant and timeless this particular selection is. It is extraordinarily smooth in its writing, with next to zero ink smudging even under less than ideal conditions. Yes, an extraordinarily satisfying click mechanism that just has that wonderful amount of resistance and a very satisfying motion to it. Yes, wonderful bit of mechanical engineering from the folks over at Parker. Yes, of course, the style and look of this pen is also something to be commented on. The brushed stainless steel exterior casing just gives it that extra pop of distinguishment. Yes, it is a distinguished pen after all, and perhaps more than anything, its elegance, its minimalist style, its very elegant, almost torpedo-like shape. Yes, everything complements just how slim and very, very visually appealing this pen is, and yet durable, reliable, and consistent. The only drawback to this pen is that the shade of its ink is perhaps a little bit too dark, for those more sophisticated letter writing endeavors, which you may or may not entertain. So this pen is perhaps limited in fashion to more everyday use, but for your purposes, extraordinarily well fashioned writing instrument, and it has the look and feel, yes, of a much more expensive, exceptionally elite pen than what it actually costs. But the best part is that your wonderful savings will be known only to you, unless, of course, you choose to divulge that information. Yes. Very, very well-appointed, well-constructed, well-presented pen with all the classic features and wonderful functionality that you expect. I wholeheartedly endorse the Parker Jotter. How do you find this ballpoint pen offering? Excellent. Now, of course, keep in mind that you're not making any selections yet. We're just taking a bit of a tour to see what piques your fancy, as it were, piques your interest. And we want to make sure that, everything that you're selecting will be of interest and of use to you. Now, without further ado then, let us move to our rollerball offering, which in this case is the Retro 51 Tornado. Now, before we continue, of course, I must make a bit of a confession. You see, the Retro 51 Tornado's manufacturer and the pen itself are both personal favorites of mine. And once I'm through with my explanation, I believe you will see why. The 51 Tornado is a very unique pen and a very distinguished one as well. It has a particular heft to it when you're writing, which may at first seem like it would be a little bit of a strain, but which in fact is so well balanced that it allows you to write endlessly, or nigh endlessly, yes, in extraordinary comfort. Again, all of the mechanisms and internal bits are exceedingly well put together, though the Tornado, per its name, features a twist mechanism rather than the click of the Parker Jotter. Yes, exceedingly smooth writing with next to zero irregularities, skips, bumps, anything of the sort, next to no bleed through, and near zero smudging. Yes, the Tornado is almost a bullet shape, as you can see, and it's so beautifully constructed and very well detailed. This is a very sensibly yet thoughtfully designed writing instrument, and every time that you use it, you'll find yourself just filled with joy, I think. Again, a little bit heavy perhaps for those very extended letter writing scenarios, but perfect, absolutely perfect for an office setting and all of those more signature moments. Yes, the signature moments. I wholeheartedly endorse the 51 Tornado, and I personally use mine wherever I can, find almost any excuse to utilize it. I love it that much, and I believe that you will as well. How do you find the 51 Tornado? Splendid. I am so very, very glad. Very, very glad to hear it. But of course, that is not the end of our tour. Far from it indeed. Next up is the gel pen, which in this case is the Papermate Ink Joy gel pen. Now, the Ink Joy gel pen is perhaps a bit less refined, a bit less sophisticated in appearance compared to the Parker Jotter or the 51 Tornado, but I assure you it is just as functional, and in fact exceeds their functionality in a few metrics. Yes, though a bit more juvenile in its styling. Yes, it writes exceptionally smoothly, and because it has a plastic rather than a stainless steel or metal casing, it's a little bit lighter, allowing you to write for longer periods of time It also has a rubberized grip, which provides just that bit of ergonomic support for ideal hand comfort. It's extremely fun to write with, and barring a little bit of smudging here and there, though even minimal amounts, very, very little smudging, but just a bit here and there. So with that little bit of smudging, very, very fun to write with, and exceedingly effective. This is a pen which I could endorse for signatures, for everyday use, or even for letter writing. Yes, a very, very useful everyday pen. Perhaps due to its style, maybe not as desirable as compared to the chter or the tornado, yes, for those professional or office settings, but, well, the Ink Joy is just such a joy to write with, we absolutely had to include it. How do you find the Papermate Ink Joy gel pen? I see. No, that is quite alright. After all, these pens tend to be a bit more niche, yes, a bit more niche, and again, a bit less refined in their design philosophy, yes. For your use scenario, I can absolutely see that this might not be the most appropriate pen for you, and that's exactly why we're doing this tour after all. But if you do not mind, I must insist that when we do our own sampling, yes, you get a chance to write with this pen, same as all of the others which you have selected. It's just that much fun to write with. I would be terribly unkind to deprive you of such an opportunity, yes. Wonderful. Now then, that does bring us, of course, to our marker pen. Our marker pen offering here this evening. Next to last, marker pen offering, which in this case is the Razorpoint 2. Now, marker pens tend to be, relatively niche in their use, but this particular marker pen is so fine and so refined, you see, that it appeals even to the everyday masses. Yes, absolutely. It appeals even to the everyday masses, and I think you can see why. It's slim, understated, yet perfectly elegant and refined stylings, not to mention its exceedingly smooth and vibrant writing really helped this pen to stand out amongst the competition. Yes, absolutely. Helps it stand out, and though marker pens are known for a little bit of bleed through, yes, that is minimal with this particular pen. Yes, minimal, zero smudging, minimal bleed through, and it makes for wonderful signatures. Wouldn't perhaps endorse it for extensive note-taking or for use on terribly thin pieces of paper or material, simply due to that little bit of bleed through which does tend to occur, but I think you'll understand why many, many professionals have come to rely on the Razorpoint 2, yes, for their professional and office-based endeavors. How do you find the Razorpoint 2? Very good. I am so pleased to hear it. Now, finally, we have reached the end of our tour, which tonight is marked by the fountain pen, the Coeco Sport. Yes, the Coeco Sport fountain pen. This is one of our most premium offerings, and one of our most refined and cost-effective as well. Yes, it has been described as a Volkswagen body with a Jaguar engine, and I think that there is no more apt way to describe this wonderful, or dare I say, piece of art. Yes, not just a writing instrument, but a piece of art. There is no more apt way to describe it. Yes. It has a very unique, very premium design. Yes. A unique octagonal shape to it that fits comfortably in the hand. It has just the right amount of heft. Every part of it, every inch, no, every micrometer has been thoughtfully designed and planned out. Yes, from the tip of the fountain pen all the way up to the cap itself, which is, of course, as is traditional, a screw-on cap. Yes, the pen is a little bit shorter than perhaps more traditional pens which you would find, but is extraordinarily comfortable in the hand and fits just right. No pen writes smoother, nor is as elegantly designed. There is no smudging to be had, nor bleed-through to be considered with the Kaweco Sport. It is the Ferrari of pens. As expected of a pen of this caliber, it produces lines which are just the right thickness, and it is perfect for everyday use. For writing extended correspondence, any use case scenario is perfect for this pen. I have seen the richest of bankers and the most snobbish of CEOs use this pen and return to me singing its praises, absolutely singing its praises, and telling me that they have recommended it to each and every one of their friends, which of course is why I have no trouble at all recommending it to just about each and every person who steps into this shop. Just about each and every person who steps into this shop. And though the Tornado may be a personal favorite, it would not disappoint me in the slightest if you chose this pen. That is how high quality it is, and how seriously I take my endorsement of it. How do you find the Kaweco Sport? Wonderful. Now, of course, the introductions are only half of the equation, and I would be a terrible salesperson. I would be a terrible salesperson indeed if I did not allow you to take each and every one of these pens on a bit of a test drive. Yes, on a bit of a test drive, as it were. After all, it is one thing to be told how smoothly, how elegantly, how faultlessly a pen writes, and another thing altogether to experience it for yourself. Yes. So, if you would permit me just one moment to please escort you over to our testing area, we can have you sit down and begin to test each and every one of these pens and find which one works best for you. Is that all right? Wonderful. Right this way then, please, to our testing area. And here we are at the testing area. Now, I have one, two requests of you before we, begin the testing, as it were, yes. Before I allow you to begin testing on all sorts of various types of paper, all sorts of things with these pens, 2 requests. First is please do not pass judgment. Do not pass judgment on these pens before you have been able to try them. Test drive them, as it were. Please do not allow any preconceptions, notions, judgments to cloud your perception of these pens and affect your overall opinion of them. I know that this is a bit of an ask, but sometimes life throws us the most interesting surprises when we have our mind the most open. Yes. I know that's a bit metaphysical and a bit philosophical. My second request is much more practical. Yes. My second request is that you do not doodle or scribble in circles when you are testing, but instead write things which are more purposeful and familiar to you. My mentor was always very, very keen, was always very, very keen on explaining to me that when a person scribbles in circles or just doodles, it shows them nothing, because that's not how they would really be writing with this pen. They would be writing things which they are familiar with. So I implore you, please, when you are sampling these pens, try writing your name, your signature, practice that, or practice your address, the names of your friends, if you will be writing letters, or any little work-related notes, maybe meeting at 9 a.m., for example. Yes. All of those little notes which could conceivably be produced with this pen, that is what I implore you to write. Yes. Not because I think that scribbling in circles isn't practicing, but it's not practicing the right things. It's not getting an accurate sample of what you will really be writing. Yes. So, with those 1, 2 requests in mind, I will now allow you to begin testing each and every pen that I've shown you today. Starting first, of course, with the Parker Jotter. Here you are. Excellent. And how do you find the Parker Jotter? I see. Interesting. Well, this, of course, is an excellent demonstration example of why we are partaking in such an exercise as this. Wonderful. I'm glad that we caught that. Next up, of course, is the 51 Tornado for you to sample. Here you are. And how do you find the 51 Tornado? Wonderful. We'll set that one to the side then. Next up is the Papermate Ink Joy gel pen. I know one that may not have appealed to you initially, but as I requested earlier, I'd like you to please just try it out to see if you like it. After all, these things have a way of surprising us. The Papermate Ink Joy is yours to sample. Here you are. And how do you find the Ink Joy pen? I see. Well, it seems your instincts were correct, but I always like to make sure to be certain, yes, of these types of things. And well, I'd be a terrible salesperson to deprive you an opportunity to try and to make certain of your choice. After all, it would be a terrible thing to head home with any lingering doubts or thoughts in your head of, well, maybe that wasn't so bad. Yes, so certainty is a very good thing. Wonderful. Next up is the Pilot Razor Point 2 for you to sample. Here you are. And how do you find the Razor Point 2? I see, yes. Well, marker pens are a bit of an acquired taste, yes. So no matter. Our final offering this evening is the Coeco Sport fountain pen for you to sample. Here you are. And how do you find the Coeco Sport? Wonderful. I will set that to the side along with the Tornado. Now, we've sampled the pens which I had shown you earlier. Do you feel satisfied with your selections, or do you wish to make additional selections based on the preferences that you've shown throughout this endeavor? Wonderful. In that case, I am so very pleased that we are able to find pens for you this evening which suit your needs and which will keep you looking ever so professional at your place of employment again. Congratulations on that new promotion. Yes. Very, very pleased for you. And I really do hope that these pens serve you exceptionally well in every way that you'll be using them. I really do. I really do. And in fact, I know that they will not just meet, but exceed each and every one of your expectations. Yes. Thank you so much for taking the time this evening to visit us. We do appreciate busy professionals such as yourself taking the time to not just learn but truly appreciate the art of writing with such a sophisticated writing instrument as the pen. We do really so appreciate it. I will get both of these packaged up for you, and then we will send you off. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and we eagerly await your return here at Reverie Pen Emporium. If you ever need anything else, you know where to find us, of course, for all of your most sophisticated, most premium, most designed, most spectacular, superb writing needs. Yes. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Wonderful rest of your evening. Good night, my friend. Good night. And I will see you soon. Goodbye.